Welcome to PRAJNA SPARKS, a podcast where we listen to a Dharma Talk, contemplate with our minds and in our hearts, and engage in guided meditation. In this episode, we continue a 4-part series on the hallmarks of the Buddha's teachings with the second of these 4 hallmarks, dukkha, suffering, discomfort, and lack of fulfillment. Please take a moment to like, follow, and review us. This is the best possible offering as it helps us to reach new listeners. Duje tanche mitakpa, sakche tanche dunyawa, chu tanche dongshin damepa, nyanyen ne depa shiwa. Everything that is conditioned is impermanent. Everything tainted brings suffering. All phenomena are empty and non-self. Nirvana is peace. These are the 4 hallmarks of the Buddha's teachings. They are hallmarks of the teachings because the Buddha Dharma points out essential characteristics of our experience in samsara, the cyclic existence of constantly recycling experiences of rebirth, aging, illness, and death over and over and over again. These 4 hallmarks or seals are describing 3 marks of existence, referring to samsara, meaning cyclic existence, as well as the counterpoint, nirvana. In particular, these 4 hallmarks are described individually in this way from the perspective of dualistic perception in which we operate. They are all interpenetrating. It is through recognizing impermanence, not only on the coarse level, but on the subtle level and on the subtlemost level, that we really penetrate what the Buddha means by dukkha, a Sanskrit word usually translated as suffering, but meaning far more than that. Discomfort, lack of fulfillment, dissatisfaction, the situation of everything being somewhat off. A common example is of a flat tire. When you're driving in a car or riding a bicycle and it has a flat tire, there's a decided feeling about that. Something's off. Things aren't rolling smoothly. And that's what dukkha is. Dukkha is a highlight, of course, of the 4 truths of realized beings, which is the first public discourse of the Buddha. On Monday, August 1st, we celebrate the great feast of the turning of the wheel of Dharma in the Tibetan calendar. So it's especially appropriate that we consider dukkha over the coming week in today's full session and next week's contemplation interlude. Let's look at what the Buddha is talking about. He gets a pretty bad rap for being a pessimist, saying everything is miserable. And as usual, there's a substantial misinterpretation going on. What the Buddha is saying is that if we look at life, it is peppered with discomfort. Rebirth is discomfort. Aging is discomfort. Illness is discomfort. Death is discomfort, painful. These are 4 ways that the Buddha describes dukkha as discomfort. And you'd be hard-pressed to disagree with those. What else does he say? He says, union with what is displeasing is uncomfortable, painful. Separation from what is pleasing is uncomfortable, painful. Not getting what we want is painful. And then he says, in brief, the 5 self-perpetuating skandhas are dukkha. What the heck are self-perpetuating skandhas? Well, skandhas is a Sanskrit word which means heaps or piles, an assembled set of things, aggregates, a complex of things. Specifically, it refers to the body-mind complex that we refer to as me or I with respect to ourselves, or with respect to others as them. This is me, that is them. Really, what we're pointing to is a shifting, impermanent set of experiences comprised of this complex of body-mind elements. The actual form of the person, we can look at our body and see even in the course of the day how it changes. The mind of the person, which the Buddha pinpoints to include not just consciousness, such as the senses, but also rational consciousness, our ability to think, the intellect. And then among those elements of mind, themselves very numerous and also constantly changing, the Buddha pinpoints feeling, which here means sensations of positive, negative, or neutral. Then also discrimination, the ability to distinguish characteristics and tell apart one thing from another. And then samskaras. This is karmic conditioning, both the results of conditioning that fine-tune our consciousness to perceive experience in a certain way, and the causes of that conditioning, which are happening moment to moment. By reinforcing the habit of perceiving things in a certain way, we are causing that habit to become stronger in future. These are the various ways that we project a sense of reality onto the environment. And this is true not only for humans, but for all beings. We can see it if we have a pet, for example, very clearly. All of this describes what the Buddha is saying when he gives us teachings on dukkha. It's not a pessimistic view. It's a challenging view, however. For us to look at everything we encounter and try to find the tragedy, the pain, the discomfort, and lack of fulfillment takes a great deal of courage. How do we do that? The Four Hallmarks are a holistic system identified in these 4 parts for the ease of understanding. By understanding each of these in the sequence the Buddha presents them, the next opens up. In the last full episode, we explored impermanence, how everything that is constructed, conditioned, composite, put together in some way, is necessarily impermanent. We see that on a coarse level, in the seasons and the days, on a subtle level with the change in our attitude and mind in the course of a day, and on the subtlemost level, not only over a lapse of time, but even moment by moment. Our mind is never still. It's constantly changing. A thought that holds us seems to be quite solid for a while, but actually it's never quite there. We can never pinpoint it. This is even true about something as seemingly solid and permanent as a rock. We're seeing the tragic consequences of treating our planet, this immensely complex rock, as something that is permanent and can withstand any conditions. The more we look at impermanence, the more we discover a sense of dissatisfaction, not quite rightness. When we are experiencing something that feels pleasurable, the Buddha never said there was no such thing as something that feels pleasurable. Right within that joy, we can use the power of our awareness to identify the subtle fear and anxiety that we can't hold on to that joy, that these things that bring us joy are conditional, that there is, in fact, nothing in samsara whatsoever that is a reliable producer of joy, happiness, contentment, fulfillment. Think about it. Even the people we love, we will necessarily be parted from temporarily if we move to a different place. And ultimately, because of death, one of the marks of dukkha. We get a new promotion and a great salary, but that joy and elation withers when the career change brings with it challenges and difficulties. Even when something seems unalloyed, beautiful experience in nature, the sun setting over the ocean, it's slipping through our fingers. And that understanding of things slipping through our fingers is always there. The powerlessness of staying with a sense of contentment, fulfillment, and joy without any taint, the taint of me, this is for me, I want it for myself. These things that are tainted by an idea of self and other, in ourselves and other beings, even in the environment. All that we describe as reality, perceived as permanent, unitary, and independent of conditions. That taint brings discomfort, sometimes on an obvious level. The discomfort of pain when we're ill, aging, or parting from someone we love who is ill or aging themselves, or what have you. Or it could be a more subtle kind of discomfort, a dissatisfaction, even when we're feeling pleasurable things that we know we can't hold on to them. We overestimate our ability to align the universe just right so that we can have the happiness we want in an uninterrupted way. Have we ever been successful at that? Is there really any chance of that happening? On the other hand, we might say, so what? That's how life is. There are ups and there are downs. It's the downs that make the ups feel so wonderful. And there's definitely something to that within the context of samsara. But what the Buddha is doing here is basically staging an intervention. He's saying, why settle for dukkha? Why settle for dissatisfaction at the core of even the pleasure in your life when your nature is to be joyful, wise, kind, happy, free of any conditions deteriorating or threatening that continuous state? And then the Buddha also says, it's not just that pain is painful. It's not just that pleasure is unreliable. We're powerless to avoid pain and to experience pleasure, which is what pretty much everything we do is aimed at accomplishing. You could say that beings dislike suffering, but are obsessed with amassing the causes of suffering. It's tragic. Samsara is tragic. This is what the second of the four seals is pointing out for us. It doesn't have to be this way. In fact, this is abnormal. The mere fact that we seek contentment, pleasure, happiness, and joy, and avoid pain is evidence that even beneath the ignorance that fails to understand reality just as it is, there is an awareness that that uninterrupted state of happiness, free of all suffering, free of even the fear or anxiety that it will recur, is our native state, the nature of our mind. By examining the impermanence in our experiences, we start to touch into the different kinds of dukkha, the obvious dukkha of pain, the shifting dukkha that deceives us into thinking we have found that pleasure at last, and yet it goes away, and the universal dukkha of not having the ability to say, I will avoid pain and feel only happiness indefinitely. This is heartbreaking. It's exhausting. It's wearying. And if that's all the Buddha had to say about it, then yes, I would be pessimistic. But the Buddha points this out precisely because he's opening a door which we never even notice is there. He's shining a light on our experience and saying, don't sell yourself out. Why diminish yourself into a creature constantly on the hunt for the next experience of serial pleasure when your nature is brilliant joy, wisdom, love, and power? Open this door to understand the impermanence and the dukkha so we can penetrate to the nature of reality and inspire ourselves to manifest our true nature for ourselves and all that lives. Here are some seeds for your contemplation over the coming week. Feel free to ask us any questions via email, Instagram, or Facebook. Links are in the episode notes. As you go about your days, try to be very scientific, very objective. Observe your experience, outer experiences of sensory pleasure, inner experience of emotional joy, as well as displeasure and discomfort. Simply identify what is tragic, what is undercutting any of it. When it comes to sensory displeasure, for example, a pain in your knee or a headache, or emotional unrest such as anxiety or discomfort over a particular painful interaction, it's very easy to identify what's tragic about it. Things are not going the way you wanted to. That's precisely as the Buddha describes one element of dukkha. Not getting what we want is dukkha. This is very obvious suffering. But even when you're experiencing sensory pleasure or emotional contentment, try to be very subtle in your awareness that identifies that sense of its evanescence. Now, we can use the understanding of impermanence to actually help us appreciate those sensory pleasures and emotional experiences that have a positive tone. Nevertheless, even as we appreciate them, we can see the tragedy of them slipping through our fingers, and we can go deeper still. Feel the heartbreak that we can't stop this, that no being can stop this within the context of samsara. This is what opens the door to an awareness of why the Buddha is so special, why his teachings are so valuable. It helps us to connect with our experience in a very realistic way and to open our eyes to what lies beyond our circle of habit. Be sure to join us again on the quarter moon as we answer your questions on dukkha. And stay tuned now for a guided meditation with Lama Zopa. Shivnee is our Tibetan singing bowl artist. We can't thank you enough for taking the time to like, follow, share, and review PRAJNA SPARKS. It means a lot to us. If you have any questions, contact us via email, Instagram, or Facebook. Check the episode notes for those links and for more resources on today's topic. Visit us on the web at prajnafire.com or follow us on Instagram and Facebook at PRAJNA SPARKS. Thank you for listening. May all beings benefit.
Hello, friends, and welcome. To begin with, let's take our seats as we often do. Just taking a moment to arrive, to settle in, to claim this space, this particular moment in time, our presence here in this life on the earth, just as we are. So feel into your posture, recognize whatever is going on for you, allow it to be without identifying with it, just giving it that space to be as you claim your power, your intentionality in being here now and practicing. And with that grounding, let's start with shamatha, tranquility meditation, as is our usual practice. If you need more instructions on shamatha, please listen to the episode on shamatha that we did previously. So we'll just practice for a couple minutes doing shamatha meditation. We can take the breath as our focal object or any other object, such as an imagined sphere of bright light in our heart or on our crown, the space in front of us, or the Buddha, a stick, a twig, whatever it may be. And just use that as the anchor for our awareness, for our attention, so that we're developing very close, one-pointed, alert, yet restful, easeful attention. So let's practice like that. Now, as we turn to the experiential inquiry, we're going to allow ourselves to touch into and explore the three types of dukkha. So the three types of suffering, which we so often try to run away from. Why do this? This is not some particular form of Buddhist masochism or some perverse way to wallow in our troubles. No. This is so that we can start to see our situation clearly, so that we can make wise, heartfelt, skillful decisions and take actions to wend our way free of confusion delusion, and ignorance. And so that we can see clearly for ourselves the power that we have to affect lasting, positive change, both for ourselves and for others. This is the crucial step the Buddha exhorted us to take in the first truth of the Noble. Recognize suffering. This has such vital importance to our path. Though it is not easy to go against our habit of running away, of trying to avoid seeing this clearly, the results we will garner from this practice over time are truly profound. This is the way that we go about starting to penetrate for ourselves this second hallmark of the Buddha's teaching, that everything defiled is suffering. So with that, let us begin. Remembering, as always, to take good care of yourself in doing the meditation. If you feel like it is just too much or you need a break, you can always return to shamatha, tranquility meditation. First, in this calm, settled state of mind we've established through our tranquility practice, turn your attention to any experience of obvious suffering. We can start small with this. Maybe right now as you're sitting, you have a physical ache or an itch that you don't scratch because you're practicing. Obvious suffering, obvious dukkha, is just that. It's anything that feels unpleasant, bad, painful. If you are remembering an experience of something painful, sad, or what have you, allow your current real-time experience of that discomfort to surface now. Give it space to be present in your kind, open attention. You don't have to fix it or solve it or make it okay. Don't have to figure out what its meaning is. Just allow it to be, and let the spacious quality of your awareness notice whatever reactions you might be having, fear, resistance, catastrophic thinking, etc., without identifying with those and making them a me or a mine. They can simply arise and fall away, or stay. It doesn't matter. Just notice and allow in this big, kind-hearted space of curious attention. So let's practice like that for a minute. Next, turn mind to experiences that are pleasurable, enjoyable. Allow them to be in this spaciousness. Notice whatever comes up for you without trying to drive it away or to make it last. When we examine our pleasant experiences, the ones we usually think of as good, we can start to notice the fear and clinging subtly underlying them that is going on within us, even as we're experiencing the pleasure of them. We fear the loss of that pleasant experience, even in the moment of it. We try to make it last. In this way, we can start to recognize how even our pleasant experiences are themselves shifting suffering, the second form of dukkha. What do you see in your experience as you investigate this? Spend a couple of minutes in meditative inquiry anytime you gain some clarity, whether it be emotional, intellectual, physical, or whatever kind of clarity. Drop the analysis and rest one-pointedly in that experience. Now we can work a little with pervasive dukkha, which is the most subtle form of suffering. One way we can start is by examining how we keep making our experience of happiness dependent on things that we have very little control over. I will be happy when blank, when I get this job, that relationship, pay off my debts, go on vacation, when Sunday rolls around, etc. And we work hard at it. And maybe we get those things. And yet, somehow, they don't provide that lasting happiness we thought they were going to. And so we just shift our idea of where we're going to find happiness to the next thing. What a situation to be in. Spend some time meditatively investigating this yourself. We don't have it in our power to just choose to be happy and not to suffer. We are continually buffeted back and forth, and we've been in this situation for so long that we just accept it as the way things are and try to eke out any modicum of comfort or well-being in the midst of having our hopes dashed again and again and again. What a sad state especially since our very nature is bliss, well-being, power. Can you feel a yearning to break free welling up inside? If so, sit one-pointedly with that. If that is not what is coming up for you, what is? Explore this. There is not a right answer or place to get to. This is your experience, your mind, your life, your path. Investigate it. Look wisely. Look kindly. Look deeply. Meditate for 1 minute. Everything defiled is suffering. I am starting to see that. And the question comes up, what is undefiled? How do I get there? Well, welcome to the Buddhist path. This is what he teaches. Thank you so much for the practice you do and everything that you are pursuing. Let's take a moment to share whatever goodness has come of this with all beings who are buffeted back and forth by the winds of these three kinds of suffering, going from dukkha to dukkha, always looking for that happiness that is their very nature. Thank you.